The Perseverance moved through deep space like a quiet arrow, its hull catching pale starlight and letting it slide away. Inside, the ship was not quiet at all. It was full of voices in different accents and different languages, and it smelled like warm metal, recycled air, and a little bit of spice from the human kitchen. Captain Mara Keene stood on the bridge with her hands behind her back. She was not tall, but she carried herself like someone who could hold a whole room steady. Her crew watched the main screen, where the soft blue glow of a nearby nebula spread like paint across the dark. This was not just another mission. Everyone knew it. The Perseverance was the first exploration ship in the region with a true mixed-species crew. The Interstellar Concord had signed treaties, taken pictures, shaken hands, and made speeches. But treaties did not fly ships. People did. People with nerves and habits and fears. Some of those people were not human. Lieutenant Sato sat at navigation, her eyes moving between charts and sensor readings. Chief Engineer Ochoa leaned against the side panel and looked half asleep, but his mind was never actually off. Dr. Amani Reeves stood near the back, calm as still water, observing everyone the way doctors did. And then there was Vailk. Vailk was the only one on the bridge who did not blink like a human. His eyes did not have lids the same way. They were dark and glossy like polished stone, set into a narrow face with fine ridges along his cheeks and forehead. His species, the Keshan, had smooth movements and careful posture. They did not waste gestures. They did not waste words either unless those words mattered. Vailk wore a Concord uniform altered for his body, with extra seams and a high collar that suited the shape of his neck. He had a small translation device at his throat, a discreet band that listened and spoke in both directions. He trusted it the way most travelers trusted airlocks. He did not trust humans the same way. Not yet. He was polite. He was professional. He did his job well, but he watched humans like he was trying to learn the pattern of a storm. Today's briefing was routine, Captain Keene had said. Standard, necessary, just a reminder of procedures before the ship entered a new and uncharted system. "Everyone here?" the captain asked, her gaze moving around the bridge. Sato nodded. Ochoa lifted a hand without looking up. Reeves gave a small thumbs up. Vailk dipped his head, which was the closest he came to a human nod. "All right," Captain Keene said. "We're 2 hours from the boundary. Before we cross, we review emergency protocols. We've done it before, but this is a mixed crew and I want everything clear. No surprises." Some crew members smiled. They liked her style, clear, direct. Vailk did not smile, he listened. Captain Keene tapped a control and the main screen shifted. A clean diagram appeared, a human silhouette with small glowing dots shown in the bloodstream and around organs. "This is about survival systems," she said. "If we encounter radiation storms, biological contaminants, or sudden pressure loss, our first goal is to keep everyone alive long enough to reach shelter." Vailk leaned forward slightly, his attention sharp. Dr. Reeves stepped closer to the screen. "Most species have external emergency gear," she said. "Suits, masks, injectors, temporary filters. Humans also use those, but we have an additional option for high-risk situations." She pointed at the glowing dots on the diagram. "Adaptive nanoconstructs," Reeves said. "We call them med-nanites for short. They can reinforce tissue, help blood carry oxygen more efficiently, and reduce damage from certain toxins. They do not make anyone superhuman. They just keep you alive." Ochoa finally looked up. "They're basically tiny tools," he said. "Medical machines so small your body can carry them," Sato added. "We don't deploy them casually. There are strict limits." Captain Keene nodded. "Exactly. They are regulated. They are recorded. They are removed or deactivated when the emergency ends." Vailk's translator hummed quietly as it worked. He had heard about human nanotechnology in reports. He had assumed it stayed in devices, or in labs, or inside sealed machines. The diagram on the screen did not look like a device. It looked like something inside a body. Reeves continued, her voice calm. "In an emergency, a human can authorize the ship's medical system to activate internal support. The med-nanites are stored in sealed cartridges. The medical bay can release them, and they move through the bloodstream to do their work." Vailk's posture tightened just a little. Captain Keene looked around. "To be clear, this protocol is optional, and it applies to humans by default because most of the crew has not been cleared for internal medical technology." Vailk heard the words through his translator. He also heard the phrase that followed because Reeves said it in an even simpler way. "They go inside you," Reeves said, to make sure no one misunderstood. "It's like having a repair team inside your body." The translator hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then it spoke in Velk's language, but something went wrong. Not a big error, not a dramatic explosion of incorrect words. It was subtle. That was what made it dangerous. In Keshan culture, there were words for medical assistance and words for internal intervention. There were also words for violation, deep, serious words tied to identity and personal boundaries. The translator selected the wrong category. It took the human concept of helpful internal tools and mapped it to a Keshan concept of forced intrusion. Velk did not receive a repair team. He received something closer to foreign agents placed within the self. His body reacted before his mind could slow it down. His breath changed. His shoulders rose. His hands, long-fingered and usually still, spread in a sharp defensive gesture. "Inside me," Velk said, but the way he said it was not a question seeking information. It was a warning. His voice went louder than he intended, and the translator amplified it across the bridge. Captain Keen blinked. "What?" Velk's eyes widened, glossy and dark. He looked from Reeves to Keen to Ochoa as if seeing a different crew than the one he had served with for weeks. "What do you mean, human?" he demanded. "Inside me." The bridge went silent so fast it felt like the air had been pulled out. Sato's hands froze above her controls. Ochoa's mouth opened, then closed. Reeves looked startled, then confused, then concerned. Captain Keen took a careful step forward. "Velk," she said gently. "Nobody said anything about you." Velk's head snapped toward her. "You displayed it," he said, pointing at the diagram. "You speak of internal placement, of tools in the blood. This is not equipment. This is not external aid." Reeves lifted her hands in a calming gesture. "Velk, it's a human medical protocol. It's for humans. We're not." Velk made a sharp clicking sound, a Keshan sign of deep alarm. "Do not soften it," he said. "If your species accepts internal foreign bodies as normal, then your definition of consent is broken." Ochoa stared. "Foreign bodies, they're medical bots. They don't have minds. They don't." "That is not the point," Velk said. His voice shook now, not from weakness but from intensity. "If something enters the self, it changes the self, even if it is helpful, even if you call it standard." Sato swallowed. "Velk, we aren't trying to." Velk took one step back, then another, like he needed distance. He looked around the bridge, seeing humans everywhere, humans who had laughed with him at meals, humans who had asked questions about Keshan star maps, humans who had treated him like a colleague, and suddenly he wondered if they had always been carrying secrets under their skin. The thought made his stomach knot. Captain Keen kept her voice steady. "Velk," she said, "nobody is putting anything inside you. This is about emergencies for human crew members, that's it." Velk's translator buzzed. It relayed her words, but now the translator was not enough. The damage was done. His mind was already running through every old warning the Keshan had ever taught. Protect the boundary, protect the self, protect the integrity of the body and mind. He made another clicking sound, shorter this time, and turned toward the exit. "Velk, wait," Reeves called. Velk did not stop. His footsteps were quick and controlled, but they carried urgency. The doors slid open at his approach, and he moved through them like someone escaping a fire. The doors closed behind him, leaving the bridge crew staring at each other in shock. For a moment, nobody spoke. The ship's systems hummed and beeped softly, uncaring. Ochoa broke the silence first. "What just happened?" Reeves stared at the closed doors, her brows drawn together. "I think," she said slowly, "we hit a cultural landmine." Sato exhaled. "Or a translation problem." Captain Keen's jaw tightened. She looked less angry than worried. "He thinks we threatened him." Ochoa rubbed his face. "But we didn't. It's human only unless someone is cleared, and even then we'd never do it without consent." Reeves nodded. "I know, but you have to understand. For some species, internal medical tech is not just scary. It touches ideas of identity." Captain Keen turned toward the corridor. "Doctor, find him, talk to him. I want this fixed before it becomes something bigger." Reeves started forward, but the captain raised a hand. "And be careful," Keen added. "He's not just upset, he's shaken." Reeves nodded and left the bridge. Sato watched her go. "Captain," she said quietly, "are we still crossing the boundary on schedule?" Captain Keen looked at the star map. The boundary line glowed faintly, waiting. "We hold position," Keen said. "Not long, but we don't walk into unknown space while our crew is fractured." Ochoa muttered. Fractured, that's one way to say it. Captain Keen gave him a look that shut him up. In the corridor outside the bridge, the lights were softer. The ship's interior was built to reduce stress. Rounded corners, gentle colors, signs in multiple languages. Velk moved quickly past them, barely noticing. He reached a junction and paused. His breathing was controlled but not calm. He pressed his hand against the wall panel as if to ground himself. He told himself he was overreacting. Then his mind showed him the diagram again, glowing dots inside a body. Inside. Keshan histories were full of cautionary tales about species that altered themselves too freely. There were stories of internal modifications that became mandatory, of help that turned into control. The Keshan had survived by refusing those paths, by making strict laws. Nothing enters the body without full understanding and clear consent, and even then it is rare. Humans spoke of it like it was nothing, like adding a tool to a toolbox. Velk's fingers curled into a fist. A door slid open nearby, and Ensign Lyra, a small winged Thal, stepped out. Her feathers lifted when she saw Velk's expression. "Velk," she asked, her voice soft. "Are you?" Velk looked at her, then away. The Thal were even more sensitive about bodily integrity than the Keshan. If she heard what humans had said, she might panic. He forced his voice lower. "Do not go to the bridge," he said. Lyra's feathers fluffed further. "Why?" Velk's throat tightened. He wanted to explain. He also wanted to keep her calm. The conflict made his translator stutter a little as it tried to match his tone. "Humans have procedures," Velk said. "Internal procedures. They speak of placing machines within the self." Lyra's eyes widened. "Within?" Velk nodded once. "Yes," Lyra's wings trembled. "Is that allowed?" "The conquered." Velk stared at the floor. "I do not know what is allowed for humans," he said. "They seem to define the boundary differently." Lyra took a slow step back. "Should I report it?" Velk lifted his head and his eyes looked hard now. "I will." He left Lyra standing there, shaken, and moved toward his quarters. His room was small but carefully adapted. Temperature a little cooler, humidity slightly higher, lighting set to a gentle spectrum that felt natural to Keshan eyes. He sealed the door behind him. The quiet fell like a blanket. Velk stood still, listening to his own breath. Then he approached his desk and activated a secure communication line. The Interstellar Concord provided every mixed crew officer with direct access to a liaison channel. It was meant for support, for conflict resolution, for emergencies. Velk's hand hovered over the activation field for one long second, then he pressed it. A symbol appeared on the screen, the Concord seal. A soft tone chimed. A voice spoke in Keshan language, formal and clear. "Officer Velk of the Perseverance, state your concern." Velk's mouth felt dry. He chose his words carefully, but emotion pushed at them from beneath. "This vessel carries human crew," Velk said. "They have presented procedures involving internal placement of artificial constructs within living bodies. They speak of it as routine. They speak of it as emergency protocol. I require clarification on Concord policy regarding internal intervention across species lines." There was a brief pause. The voice remained calm. "Do you believe there is imminent threat?" Velk remembered Captain Keen's face, confused, not cruel. He remembered Reeves' calm tone. He remembered Ochoa's casual shrug like it was normal. Imminent threat, not in the simple sense, but danger did not always come with weapons. Sometimes it came wrapped in helpful language. "I believe," Velk said, "there is a risk of misunderstanding that could lead to violation. I request immediate counsel. And I request that the Conquered be made aware that humans may not comprehend the seriousness of internal boundary laws." Another pause. "Your request is noted. Remain available." The connection ended. Velk sat down slowly, his joints stiff. He did not feel triumph. He did not feel relief. He felt something heavier, the sense that a line had been crossed, even if no one intended to cross it. Outside his door, the ship continued as usual. People walked. Machines worked. Space waited. Inside his mind, everything had shifted. Back on the bridge, Captain Keen stared at her own hands as if they might explain this situation. She had seen conflict before. Fear, anger, grief. She had worked with other species. She had done her homework, but she had not expected this. She turned to Sato. "Run a diagnostics check on our translation suite," she said. Sato's fingers moved fast. "Already running," she replied. "No errors flagged," Ochoa snorted, "because it did what it thought was right." Reeves' voice came through the bridge comm, slightly breathless. Captain, I found Valk outside his quarters earlier. He wouldn't talk much. He thinks we don't understand what we're doing. Captain Keen closed her eyes for a moment. And do we? She asked softly. Reeves hesitated. We understand our side. But his reaction, it's not simple fear. It's cultural, maybe historical. Captain Keen opened her eyes. Doctor, keep trying, be patient. Tell him we will not cross boundaries. Tell him we are willing to pause the mission if we have to. Reeves replied, understood. The comm clicked off. Captain Keen looked at the star map again. The boundary line was closer now, a quiet promise of discovery, but discovery was not just planets and stars. Sometimes it was the discovery that two minds could live in the same ship and still misunderstand each other completely. And somewhere on the ship, behind a sealed door, Valk waited for the conquered to answer, while the first ripples of panic and rumor began to move through the mixed crew like a current under calm water. Because once one person said the words, others would ask, "Inside me." What do you mean, human? And the question was no longer just about technology. It was about trust. It was about who humans really were under the skin. The Perseverance did not cross the boundary. Instead, it drifted at a careful distance, engines humming low like a creature holding its breath. The order came quietly from Captain Keen, but its effect moved fast through the ship. Navigation charts froze. Long-range scans paused. Exploration teams were told to stand by. People noticed. On a ship, nothing stayed secret for long. Whispers began in corridors and mess areas. Human crew members spoke in low voices, confused and uneasy. Non-human crew members watched more closely than before, their movements cautious, their expressions guarded. Something had changed. Valk remained in his quarters. He stood near the wall panel, listening to the faint vibration of the ship, the sound he usually found comforting. Now it only reminded him that he was surrounded. A soft chime sounded at his door. He did not answer at first. The chime came again, slower this time. Valk, Dr. Reeves' voice said through the panel. I'm not here to argue, I just want to talk. Valk closed his eyes. Part of him wanted to stay silent. Another part knew that silence would only make things worse. Enter, he said. The door slid open and Reeves stepped inside. She kept her hands visible and stopped a respectful distance away. Her posture was careful, like someone approaching a frightened animal. I won't stay long, she said. I promise. Valk turned to face her. You promised clarity on the bridge, he said. And yet I am here, Reeves nodded. You're right, we failed at that. That surprised him. He had expected defense, correction, explanation, not agreement. She continued, I checked the translation logs. There was a category mismatch. What we meant as temporary medical assistance translated closer to internal occupation. Valk's eyes narrowed. That difference is not small. I know, Reeves said. It's enormous. They stood in silence for a moment. Valk, Reeves said gently, no human on this ship would ever place anything inside another being without clear, informed consent. Not now, not ever. Valk's voice was low. You say this because it is obvious to you. Yes, Reeves replied, and because it's true. Valk looked away. Truth can still be dangerous when it is incomplete. Reeves took a slow breath. The conquered has been notified, she said. They're arranging mediation. Until then, the captain has suspended forward operations. Valk's shoulders tightened. You stopped the mission? Yes. Because of me? Because of us, Reeves corrected. A crew that doesn't trust each other shouldn't be pushing into unknown space. Valk did not respond. His mind was already moving ahead, imagining how this would look to the conquered. A Keshan officer halting a human-led mission. Reports, reviews, quiet judgments. Reeves watched him carefully. You're not in trouble, she said. Not with us. Valk finally met her eyes. And with your species? Reeves gave a small, sad smile. Humans argue with each other all the time. This won't break us, but it might change us, and that's not always bad. Valk studied her face. Humans wore their emotions openly. Fear, concern, honesty, all visible if one knew how to look. Doctor, Valk said slowly, does your species truly feel no discomfort knowing there are machines within you? Reeves considered the question. Some do, she said. Some don't. For most of us, it's about choice. We grew up learning that our bodies aren't fixed things. They heal, they adapt. Technology is just another tool we use to survive. Survival, Valk repeated. At what cost? Reeves' expression grew serious. Sometimes the cost is fear, from others, from ourselves. We argue about it constantly. But when things go wrong, when space tries to kill you, you don't debate philosophy, you choose life. Valk said nothing. Reeves activated her wrist display. The Concord wants a joint review. They've asked us to dock at a neutral station. They're dispatching observers. Velk's translator processed the words. A tribunal, he said. Not exactly, Reeves replied. More like a conversation with witnesses. Velk gave a dry sound that might have been a laugh in another species. Conversations with witnesses decide futures, Reeves nodded. Yes. They do. She lowered her wrist and looked at him again. Will you speak? Velk hesitated. If I do not, he said, others will speak for me. That's what worries me, Reeves said softly. Velk closed his eyes for a long moment. I will speak, he said, but not as an enemy. As a warning, Reeves inclined her head. That's all I can ask. When she left, Velk remained still, listening to the quiet again. This time it felt heavier. Hours later, the Perseverance docked with Concord Station Eos, a vast structure shaped like a ring of interlocked arcs. Its surfaces gleamed white and silver, marked with symbols from a dozen civilizations. Docking clamps locked into place with a deep, steady thud. The station felt different from the ship. Larger, colder, more distant. The delegation gathered in a wide chamber with transparent walls that looked out onto the stars. A long table curved through the center. Seats of many designs lined its edges. Humans sat on one side. Velk sat opposite them. Between them, Concord observers stood and floated and perched, representing species that had never shared a room before humans reached the stars. A tall, pale-skinned Gen moderator began the session. Her voice carried without effort. This review concerns the use and discussion of internal adaptive technology aboard a mixed-species vessel, she said. We are here to determine whether Concord law has been violated and whether further restrictions are required. Captain Keen sat straight, her hands folded. Velk sat just as still, his posture perfect. The moderator turned to Velk first. Officer Velk, explain your concern. Velk rose. He felt every eye on him. He ignored them. Keshan law defines the body as a closed boundary, he said. What enters the body becomes part of the self. Foreign presence, even temporary, carries deep cultural and historical trauma. He paused, choosing his words with care. When humans described internal machines as routine, my translator framed it as internal occupation. That framing is tied in my culture to forced alteration, to loss of self, to extinction events. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Velk continued, I do not claim humans intend harm, but intent does not erase impact. When a species treats internal alteration lightly, others may fear that their boundaries will not be respected. The moderator nodded. Thank you, Captain Keen. Keen stood. Humans do use internal medical technology, she said plainly. We do so by choice. We regulate it strictly. We never apply it to others without consent. In this case, the protocol was discussed poorly and translated worse. For that, I accept responsibility. She looked directly at Velk. We should have explained it better. We should have asked questions first. Velk felt something tighten in his chest, not anger, but something closer to uneasy respect. The moderator raised a hand. Dr. Reeves? Reeves stepped forward and explained the technology in simple terms. No glowing words, no pride. Just function and limits. Observers asked questions, many questions. Can these constructs influence thought? No. Can they replicate? No. Can they remain without detection? No. Would humans accept a ban? Reeves hesitated, then answered honestly. Some would. Some wouldn't. Humans don't agree on everything. That answer caused more discussion than any other. As the session continued, tension hung thick in the air. Some observers leaned toward Velk's position, their species equally cautious. Others seemed curious, even impressed. Then the station lights flickered. At first it was subtle, a dimming, a return to normal. Then it happened again, stronger. The moderator paused mid-sentence. Technical control, she said. Report, a voice replied through the chamber. We're detecting radiation fluctuations outside expected parameters. Captain Keen's head snapped up. From where? Unknown source, the voice said. It's not stellar, it's moving. The transparent walls showed the stars beyond. For a moment they looked unchanged. Then space itself seemed to shimmer. A wave of pale distortion rolled past the station like heat haze made of light. Alarms began to sound, soft at first, then louder. Several alien observers stiffened. One gasped. The moderator's voice sharpened. Status. Radiation levels rising, Control replied. Shielding is compensating, but the lights flickered harder this time. A panel sparked. Velk's species was not built for radiation. Neither were many others in the room. He felt a faint pressure in his chest, a warning sign his body recognized too well. Captain Keen moved instantly. "Medical teams on standby," she said. "Station control, can you isolate the source?" "Negative," came the reply. "It's a drifting radiation cloud, unstable." "We didn't detect it in time." The moderator looked around, suddenly less formal. "How long do we have?" "Minutes," Control said. "Maybe less." Fear rippled through the chamber, now open and sharp. Velk felt it too, not panic. Keshan training held that at bay, but cold awareness. This was what humans meant by emergencies. Dr. Reeves checked her scanner, her face tightening. "Some species here won't tolerate this exposure," she said. "Not even short-term." Captain Keen nodded once. "I know." Her eyes flicked briefly to Velk. He saw the question there, unspoken. Velk's mind raced. He understood the situation. He also understood the line he had drawn. "Inside me? What do you mean, human?" The station shuddered. A deeper alarm sounded. Control spoke again, voice strained. "Shielding is failing in sections. We're rerouting power, but—" A sharp crack echoed as part of the chamber ceiling sealed itself off. The moderator swallowed. "What options do we have?" Reeves hesitated, then spoke. "For humans, internal protection could buy time. For others, external shielding may not be enough." Silence fell. All eyes turned slowly toward the human side of the table. Then, just as slowly, some turned toward Velk. The choice he had feared, no, the choice he had warned against, was now standing in front of him, real and urgent. Technology that could save lives. Technology that crossed boundaries. Velk's translator hummed quietly as it waited for words. Outside the station, the radiation wave rolled closer, bright and unforgiving. And in that chamber of glass and stars, theory gave way to survival. The chamber felt smaller as the radiation wave pressed closer. The transparent walls no longer showed calm stars, but a shifting glow, pale and dangerous, like light that had forgotten how to behave. Alarms continued to sound, steady and cold. Velk stood very still. His training told him not to rush. His instincts told him that time was running out. Around him, species reacted in different ways. Some froze. Some whispered urgently to their companions. A few backed away from the transparent walls as if distance alone could protect them. Captain Keen's voice cut through the noise. "Station control, how long until exposure reaches critical levels for non-human species?" The answer came quickly. "Less than 4 minutes." 4 minutes. Velk's chest tightened again. He could already feel the beginning of strain in his body. Keshan physiology could tolerate short exposure, but not much more. Others in the chamber were far more fragile. Dr. Reeves looked down at her scanner, then up at the moderator. "We can't evacuate everyone in time," she said. "Even if ships undock now, the radiation cloud will catch them." The moderator's face had lost its formal calm. "Then what are you suggesting, Doctor?" Reeves hesitated. Every instinct told her to be careful. Words mattered now more than ever. "There is a possibility," she said slowly, "to extend temporary internal shielding to non-human biology. It would not be permanent. It would not alter identity. It would only reduce cellular damage long enough for the cloud to pass." A wave of reaction spread through the chamber. "No," hissed a slender observer from the Risk Collective. "Internal interference is forbidden." "Unacceptable," said another voice. Velk said nothing, he listened. Captain Keen stepped forward. "This would only happen with full consent," she said firmly. "No one would be forced, no one would be touched without agreement." The moderator turned to Velk. "Officer Velk," she said carefully, "you raised the concern that brought us here. What is your position now?" The room went quiet. Velk felt every gaze settle on him. Human eyes, alien eyes, curious, afraid, expectant. This was not a debate anymore. This was a moment. He thought of Keshan history, of the stories told in careful voices about boundaries broken and identities erased. Of why his people had survived by saying no again and again, even when others said yes. He also thought of the humans on the Perseverance, of Captain Keen stopping the mission because trust mattered, of Dr. Reeves standing in his quarters and saying, "We failed." And he thought of the chamber around him, full of lives that would not survive the next few minutes without help. Velk took a slow step forward. "My position," he said, his voice steady, "has not changed." A murmur ran through the chamber. "The body is sacred," Velk continued. "The boundary matters, it must always matter." He paused. "But survival also matters." The murmur grew louder, then faded as he raised one hand. "I will not allow this choice to be made lightly," Velk said, "and I will not allow it to be made for others." He turned slowly and faced the human delegation. "You speak of consent," he said. "Then prove you understand it." Captain Keen met his gaze. "How?" Velk's voice did not waver. "I will be first." The chamber erupted in noise. "No," shouted one observer. "That is reckless," said another. Dr. Reeves' eyes widened. "Velk, you don't have to." "I do," Velk said. He turned to the moderator. "If I, Akeshan, accept temporary internal aid by choice with full understanding, then no one can claim this is forced. No one can claim ignorance." The moderator hesitated. "Officer Velk, the conquered does not require." "I am not doing this for the conquered," Velk said. "I am doing this to answer a question." He looked around the chamber. "Inside me," he said quietly. "What do you mean, human?" Silence fell again, heavier than before. Captain Keen took a step forward. "Velk," she said, "this is your decision. We will not ask, we will not push." "I know," Velk replied. "That is why it matters." Dr. Reeves swallowed. "If we proceed," she said, "it will be monitored. You will be conscious the entire time. You can stop it instantly." Velk inclined his head. "That is acceptable." The moderator exhaled slowly. "Very well," she said. "This will be recorded as voluntary participation under emergency conditions." Station control spoke again. "Radiation levels increasing. 2 minutes to critical exposure." There was no more time. The chamber doors opened, and a small medical team entered, moving quickly but carefully. Portable equipment unfolded like quiet flowers. Human medtech, sleek and clean, nothing invasive visible from the outside. Velk followed them to the center of the room. He stood tall, refusing the offered seat. "I will remain standing," he said. "I want to feel this." Reeves nodded, respecting the choice. "All right." She explained every step, slowly, clearly. No technical pride, no shortcuts. "This device releases a limited number of adaptive constructs," she said. "They will respond only to radiation damage markers. They cannot interact with thought, memory, or identity structures. They dissolve once the threat passes." Velk listened. His translator rendered the words carefully this time. He asked questions. Reeves answered all of them. Finally, there was nothing left to say. "Are you ready?" Reeves asked. Velk took a breath. "Yes." Reeves activated the device. Velk felt warmth, not pain, not intrusion, just a spreading sense of pressure like standing in sunlight after cold. His body reacted instinctively, muscles tensing. For a fraction of a second, fear surged, deep ancestral fear. Then it faded. He was still himself. His thoughts were clear, his sense of self untouched. He lifted his hands and examined them. The ridges on his skin looked the same. He felt the same weight in his limbs. Inside him, something worked quietly without demand or voice. "Status?" Captain Keen asked. Reeves checked her scanner. "Radiation absorption reduced by 80%, cellular stress stabilizing." Velk looked up. His voice carried across the chamber. "I am still Keshen," he said. The words landed like a shockwave. Some observers leaned forward, others stared in disbelief. "I feel no loss," Velk continued. "No voice but my own, no presence that demands." He turned slowly, letting everyone see him. "This is not occupation," he said. "It is assistance." The moderator's hands trembled slightly. "Radiation levels?" she asked. Station control answered, awe in their voice. "Officer Velk's vitals are stable, exposure effects minimal." The chamber erupted again, but this time the sound was different. Less fear, more possibility. One by one questions came. "Can it be adjusted?" "Yes." "Can it be refused at any moment?" "Yes." "Will it leave any trace?" "No." Time ticked on. The radiation wave pressed closer, then began to slide past the station, slowed by the shields and by the growing number of protected bodies inside. Some observers stepped forward. A RIS delegate spoke, voice shaking. If Officer Velk consents, then I will consider it." Another followed, then another. Not all agreed. Some chose to trust external shielding and risk the damage. No one forced them. Humans did not argue. They waited. Dr. Reeves and her team worked quickly but gently. Every consent was recorded. Every procedure explained again and again. Velk watched it all, a strange calm settling over him. This was not what he had feared. This was not erasure. This was choice. Minutes passed, then more. The alarm softened, then fell silent. Station control spoke with relief. "Radiation wave passing, levels returning to safe margins." The glow outside the chamber faded, stars returning to their normal sharp clarity. A collective breath seemed to leave the room. Some beings sat down, weak but alive. Others leaned against walls, trembling. Velk remained standing. Dr. Reeves approached him. "How do you feel?" she asked quietly. Velk considered the question carefully. "Alive," he said, "and unchanged." Reeves smiled, and there was exhaustion in it. "Good." The moderator straightened, regaining her formal tone. "This session will be concluded after medical clearance," she said, "but it is clear that today has altered the discussion." She looked directly at Velk. "Your action will be noted." Velk inclined his head. "I hope it is understood, not just noted." Later, in a quieter medical room, Velk sat on a padded surface while Reeves monitored the gradual shutdown of the constructs inside him. He felt the warmth fade, leaving nothing behind. No emptiness, no sense of loss, just himself. Captain Keen stood nearby, her posture less rigid now. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. Velk looked at her. "Neither did you have to stop the mission," he replied. Keen gave a small, tired smile. "Fair point." They stood in silence for a moment. "You asked a question," Velk said. "I needed an answer." "And?" Keen asked. Velk thought of the words that had started everything. "Inside me, what do you mean human?" "I mean," Velk said slowly, "that sometimes the boundary holds not because nothing crosses it, but because what crosses does so with respect." Keen nodded, understanding the weight of that. Outside the room, the station returned to normal. Crew members spoke in low voices, recounting what they had seen. Rumors spread, but they were different now. Less fear, more wonder. Humans were still strange, but they were no longer unknowable. And in the quiet space between cultures, something fragile and powerful had taken its first real breath there, sharp, familiar points. The station's systems stabilized one by one, and the quiet hum of normal function replaced the sharp edge of alarms. Life continued. But it did not continue the same way. In the medical wing, Velk sat calmly while Dr. Reeves finished her final scan. The display showed clean lines and steady readings. No warning signals, no hidden traces. "It's complete," Reeves said. "The constructs are fully dissolved. There's nothing left." Velk closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. He searched himself carefully, the way his people were taught to do after moments of danger. Nothing felt wrong, nothing felt missing. "I am unchanged," he said. Reeves smiled, tired but relieved. "That's what we hoped." Captain Keen stood nearby, arms folded loosely now instead of tight against her chest. For the first time since docking at the station, her shoulders were relaxed. "You saved lives today," she said. Velk tilted his head slightly. "So did you." "You offered help without demand." Keen nodded. "That's important to us." "It should be," Velk replied. When Velk left the medical wing, the station corridors felt different. Not safer, space was never truly safe, but warmer. Beings from different species looked at him with open curiosity now, not guarded fear. Some inclined their heads in respect. Others simply watched, thinking. The conquered moderator, the Gen named Alaris, requested a final private meeting before the Perseverance departed. It took place in a smaller chamber with no observers and no recording drones. Just Velk, Captain Keen, Dr. Reeves, and Alaris. Alaris spoke first. "Today's events will echo far beyond this station," she said. "There will be debate, there will be resistance. There will be admiration." Velk said nothing. He did not seek admiration. "The conquered must issue a ruling," Alaris continued. "Not just on the incident, but on humans themselves." Captain Keen stiffened slightly but did not interrupt. Alaris looked directly at her. "Humans challenge existing frameworks. You integrate technology in ways many species fear. But today you demonstrated restraint." She turned to Velk. "And you demonstrated courage." Velk inclined his head. "I demonstrated choice." "Yes," Alaris agreed. "And that may be the most important lesson." She activated a small display. "The preliminary ruling is this: humans will not be sanctioned. Instead, they will be reclassified." Keen raised an eyebrow. "Reclassified how?" Alaris read from the display. "Humanity will be designated as an adaptive symbiotic species." Reeves blinked. "That's new." "It is," Alaris said. "The classification recognizes a species that survives through integration rather than domination. Through tools that cooperate with the self instead of replacing it." Velk watched Keen's reaction carefully. The human captain did not look triumphant. She looked thoughtful. "What does that mean in practice?" Keen asked. "It means," Alaris replied, "that any interaction involving human adaptive technology across species lines will require expanded consent protocols, cultural mediation, and shared oversight. It also means other species are formally warned not to assume intent from method." Velk felt something settle in his chest. Not relief, resolution. Alaris looked at him again. Officer Velk, your report will be attached to this ruling in full. Your words will matter. Velk nodded. Then I will choose them carefully. The meeting ended without ceremony. Hours later, the Perseverance undocked from Concord Station Eos. The clamps released, and the ship drifted free, engines warming to life. On the bridge, the atmosphere was quieter than usual, not tense, thoughtful. Sato worked navigation, glancing occasionally at the captain. Ochoa leaned against his console, pretending not to watch Velk as the Keshan officer took his place at the science station. Velk felt the familiar hum of the ship beneath his feet. This time, it felt less like a cage and more like a shared space. Captain Keen cleared her throat. "All right," she said. "We're cleared to resume mission parameters, boundary crossing in 30 seconds. No one cheered, but no one objected either. As the ship approached the boundary line, Velk found his thoughts drifting, not to fear but to memory. Inside me, what do you mean, human? The question no longer felt sharp. It felt answered. The boundary shimmered, then parted as the Perseverance crossed into uncharted space. New stars bloomed on the display. Later that cycle, Velk found himself in the mess hall. He usually ate alone, but today something drew him to a larger table where several humans were gathered. The conversation paused when he approached. Ochoa cleared his throat. Hey, Velk. Engineer Ochoa, Velk said. May I join you? There was a half-second of surprise, then Sato smiled. Of course. Velk sat. The table was cluttered with trays and containers. Human food smells were strange but not unpleasant. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Ochoa broke the silence. So, he said carefully, I just want to say thanks for trusting us. Velk considered his response. Trust, he said, is not blind, it is tested. Sato nodded. That's fair. Reeves arrived then, carrying a cup. She paused when she saw Velk at the table, then smiled and joined them. I was just reviewing the data, she said. Your physiology adapted remarkably well. Your cellular response patterns are elegant. Velk's eyes narrowed slightly. That is a compliment. Yes, Reeves said quickly. A genuine one? Velk inclined his head. Then I accept it. There was a soft ripple of laughter around the table, not loud, not forced, just real. As the meal continued, the conversation shifted to safer topics. Navigation anomalies, star patterns. A strange mineral signature detected earlier, but beneath it all something had changed. They were no longer just co-workers sharing space. They were learning how to share understanding. Days passed. The mission continued deeper into unknown territory. New systems, new phenomena. New challenges. Velk found himself watching the humans more closely, not with suspicion but curiosity. They joked in the face of danger. They argued openly, then worked together anyway. They treated their bodies as things that could be improved, repaired, supported. Not owned by fear. In the quiet hours, Velk composed his final report to the Conquered. He chose his words with care, knowing they would be read by beings who had never met a human and might never want to. He wrote of boundaries. He wrote of consent. He wrote of fear and of how fear could be eased not by force but by patience. And he wrote this. Humans do not see the body as a fixed shrine. They see it as a living system. This difference is not a threat if approached with respect. Their strength lies not in the technology they carry, but in their willingness to offer it first to themselves and only to others by request. He paused, then added one final line. Never assume humans mean harm, especially when they say they are willing to carry the burden themselves. He sent the report. Weeks later, the Perseverance encountered a damaged alien research vessel drifting without power. The crew was injured. Their species was fragile. Captain Keen ordered a rescue operation immediately. When the alien captain learned humans were aboard, fear flickered in their eyes. Velk stepped forward. They will not force you, he said calmly. They will explain, you will choose. The alien captain hesitated, then nodded. Lives were saved that day. Word spread, not as rumors of horror, but as stories of choice. On the bridge, watching a new star rise on the display, Captain Keen spoke quietly. You know, she said, back on the bridge that day, when you yelled at us, I thought everything was about to fall apart. Velk looked at the stars. Sometimes, he said, things must break a little to show where they are weak. Keen smiled. Humans are very familiar with that idea. Velk believed her. As the Perseverance moved forward into the dark, carrying many species and many fears, one truth remained clear. Humanity was not defined by what it put inside itself. It was defined by what it refused to take from others. And because of that, the stars felt just a little less distant.